So this is the basic laminar flow hood over here. I think we did this in a video yesterday as well. We've got two chambers. You can call them chamber 1 and chamber 2. I like to just refer to them based on their lines. So usually I call this chamber 1 and chamber 3 because of their outlet numbers. It's just easier that way. That way everyone's on the same page. So between chamber 1 and chamber 3, you have multiple elements. You've got a Teflon chamber with 3 Teflon lines, an inlet and outlet, and a general sampling line, I guess, major air hole line. You've got actual sample tray, a 12-pass copper aluminum cold plate for chillers and recirculators. And you've got these full spectrum lamps, which may or may not be here by the time you get here. Now, a couple of things. Some of the hoods actually have humidity monitors, but these are pretty low resolution, so we don't use them too much anymore. One thing to know is that these lamps are actually held up to the roof, the ceiling of the hood via these zip ties. Occasionally those zip ties can snap and break, at which point you have to replace them, if you can see up there. But, you can peek down there anytime, or peek up there. These cold pass plates generally never have issues. The main thing you really have to worry about is watching these lines. Sometimes, because of the pressure of the coolant going in and out, the lines will actually wear around the pipe and it'll start spurting out ethylene glycol. Which is antifreeze, so it's not too big of a deal, but just, it's something to watch out for. Another thing, so...
What are the replacement lines for that?
They're in the tubing cabinet outside, underneath the sink on the far wall.
Okay.
Okay, so if you look up here, this is actually a filter housing. There are... a little more. There you go. This is a filter housing with a carbon filter in there. It's got 8 screws going on each corner and each side. So actually, 8 screws. When the background of the Techran starts to rise, you can actually come down. Sorry. When the background of the Techran actually starts to rise, meaning when you're measuring just Teflon blanks and the levels are going to come up towards room levels, you can usually count on it being the carbon filter requiring replacement.
And so what, you said room levels, what levels are that typically?
I'm sorry?
What level you're talking about in what?
Room levels? Between 2 and 6 nanograms per cubic meter.
Okay.
Generally is, between like 2.6 and 6 nanograms per meter.
Those high levels.
Those are room levels.
Okay.
Like you should, if you look at there, actually let's take a look. See these background levels? You're at 0.14, 0.107. Anywhere from this is pretty much like bottom, like rock bottom.
Okay.
So this is really good. This filter's changed, I think, right before we moved. So these are really good background levels. We shoot for these.
Okay.
But if it goes up to 1 or 2, that's still acceptable. But once you get past 2.5, 2.6, generally you should start looking into replacing the filter.
And how often do you replace the filter?
About once every year, but I like to do it a little more often.
Okay.
Maybe like every half a year, every 3/4 of a year, depending on. So the filter cartridges will be held right here in this cabinet below. Yeah. Okay. So moving back to the hood, just talked about the filter cartridges. So these lamp bulbs generally need to be replaced in 2s. So if one breaks, if one blows, you need to replace them in 2s. However, we discussed that might be an issue yesterday, so there might be a new protocol with the lamps by the time you get here. Sometimes with these bulbs, they will actually, when they blow, they'll literally blow. The glass will crack and they'll spill mercury vapor out into the hood. If that happens, everything inside the hood requires a nitric acid wash. Usually you want to do 10 to 15% of a nitric acid solution in DI water, and you just have to go all over the place. It has to go even the top, the bottom, the lamp, housing, definitely the chambers, the plates, the cold plate, anywhere, literally anywhere.
And it's just pretty much a scrub down.
Yes, of everything.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's generally when we do that. You'll notice that the Teflon lines actually weave back into the hood. They're actually behind the hood and they weave back over here to the port sampler. When you need to recut lines, which you might not have to do, you will have to actually go back there. Well, you can pull it out from either side and then weave it back. I find it easiest to weave it to the side and then bring it over. Just my own preference. Okay. Sometimes, so these water recirculators will, if you set the temperature too high, the ethylene glycol will actually pop up as vapor and start to condense outside. So this lid will be pushed up and essentially you'll have an ethylene glycol spill. When that happens, essentially you just need to clean it up and refill the ethylene glycol from that corner over there.
So, how do you handle the spill? How do you dispose of the waste?
Generally, you just wipe it up. It's antifreeze, so it doesn't really have any major hazardous concerns. It's really just the ingestion issue. So you want to bag it up in toxic waste. You can get those bags from the prep room. They're yellow bags. So you want to wipe it up with a paper towel, put it in the yellow bags, label ethylene glycol, and then you can return it back to that area with our chemical safety area, or waste area, essentially. That's how you handle it.
Okay.
Actually, if you can come back here, I don't know if you can see, but you might have to crouch. So if you ever need to empty these, there is a nozzle back here. Can you see that? I don't know if it's going to be, it's not light.
Yeah.
I should move this. Yeah, there you go.
Okay.
So this nozzle here can rotate, to let the coolant out, so it'll actually flow out. You want to have something to catch it, obviously, when you do that, okay?
And that's when you're changing the coolant out?
Yeah.
Okay. So, do you put new coolant on top of old coolant, or do you just change it? Like when you're changing it out, you make sure you dispose of the coolant that's already in there?
You can put new coolant on top of old coolant, because it's not like, it doesn't get exhausted, it's just ethylene glycol, it's just antifreeze. It's not like it gets, chemically exhausted.
And how often do you change out the coolant?
Almost never. You really never need to change it.
Oh, okay.
But just in case you need to move things, then it's a good idea to know that. Okay, so let's actually shift over to this hood. Actually, yeah. So, just another word about the hood over there. That hood basically requires the same maintenance as the hood inside the other room. They're the same kinds of hoods. I think they're the PCR. They're PCR 4A2s. Okay, so here we have the new air model. It's also a laminar flow hood, but it works a little differently. There's a lot more controls over here. If you need to, you can actually turn the light on over here to look at it. So the plastic divider is acrylic. It'll actually absorb any light coming from either lamp, so that the lamp will be controlled to stick it to one side. We have dividers in every hood like this. This is just one that I built, so I'm especially proud of it. The manual for this hood is actually between the dividers. So if you ever need to get it, it's right here in the middle. Right here. So this is essentially the same thing. You have hoods hanging from zip ties from, if you can see there's rods up there. They're supported by the divider as well. So the lamps are hanging by zip ties. Once again, occasionally they can break because there's a lot of heat inside when the lamps come on. So once they snap, you can just replace them. It's nice and easy. The rods are there, so they should be fine. When this hood is completely set up, which I think we're going to do, depending on how much time we have, all of these, you're going to have a lot of Teflon lines coming out, as well as the power cord for the lamps, and you're going to have recirculator lines running into the hood. So a lot of things are going to be coming out the front of the hood, essentially. And so you're going to have to be a little careful about that. Unfortunately, this hood wasn't our design, so there's no holes on the side to, like these guys, there's holes in the back. We don't have holes here to, run lines out of. So it's gonna have to come all up front. And that's pretty, so if you can see up there, if you can raise it, you might be able to see it. You see that thing with the bolts? See it at the top? Yeah. That is a filter housing for the new Air Class hood. To change the filter housing, this doesn't have 8 screws around, the corners and the sides. This is just bolts. There's that side panel. Once you undo the bolts, they come right out. You can take the panel out, they slip right out. I made sure that there was enough room to do it. You're a little bit of a bigger guy than me, so I'm not sure if it'll work the same for you. But I should have a step ladder in by the time you get here. I'm gonna buy one so that you can get up there. That panel you can undo the bolts and then slide the panel out, and you can slide the cartridge filter cartridges out.
And all the filters are in here.
Yes, all the filters are in here. So I'm gonna work on getting filter cartridges for this guy. And that's hood maintenance basically.
Okay.
Okay. Oh, just stop. More questions, or you want to ask questions on the video? Yeah, 10 minutes. Okay.
Let's stop.